The cargo vessel Steadfast Hope moved through the darkness of space like a small light in an endless ocean. It was not a warship. It was not built for battle. It carried food, medicine, and supplies for a human colony 3 weeks away. The ship was old but reliable, and its crew of 42 people trusted it with their lives. Captain Park stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main window. She was a woman in her 40s with short gray hair and calm eyes. She had been a captain for 15 years, and she had seen many things in the darkness between worlds. But today, something felt wrong. She could not explain it. It was just a feeling in her stomach, like a cold hand pressing against her from the inside. "Captain, we are receiving a distress signal," said Han from his station. He was the youngest member of the bridge crew, only 23 years old. This was his first deep space mission, and his eyes were still full of wonder and fear in equal measure. "Turn to face him, show me." The main screen flickered and a weak signal appeared. It came from a small ship about 2 hours away. The message was simple: engine failure, life support failing, please help. First officer walked closer to the screen. He was a tall man with a hard face and military posture. Before joining the cargo service, he had spent 12 years in the Earth Defense Fleet. He had learned to be suspicious of everything. "Captain, I do not like this," he said quietly. "The signal is too clean. If their systems were really failing, there would be more interference." "You think it is fake?" asked. "I think we should be careful." Considered his words, was often too cautious, but he was rarely wrong. Still, she could not ignore a distress call. If there were people dying out there, she had a duty to help them. "We will approach slowly," she decided. "Raise shields to half power and keep weapons ready. If something feels wrong, we leave immediately." Nodded, though his face showed he would have preferred to leave now. The Steadfast Hope changed course and moved toward the signal. The bridge was quiet. Everyone felt the tension in the air. The chief engineer came up from the engine room to stand near the captain. She was a small woman with oil-stained hands and sharp intelligence in her eyes. "Engines are running smooth," she reported. "Whatever happens, we can run fast if we need to." "Good," said. "Stay close, I may need you." As they approached the coordinates, studied his sensors with growing confusion. "Captain, I am not detecting any ship at the signal location. There is nothing there." "Nothing?" Stepped forward. "That is not possible. The signal is still broadcasting." "Yes, but there is no ship, just empty space." The cold feeling in stomach grew stronger. She opened her mouth to order a retreat, but before she could speak, the space around them changed. 6 ships appeared from nowhere. They had been hiding, using technology that bent light around them like water around a stone. They were warships, each one 3 times the size of the Steadfast Hope. Their hulls were dark purple, covered with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. "We are surrounded," said, his voice tight but controlled. The main screen flickered again and a face appeared. It was not human. They had gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and mouths that seemed too wide for their narrow heads. This one wore golden armor that marked him as a commander. "Human vessel," the alien said. His voice was cold and sharp like breaking ice. "I am Archon of the Dominion. You are now our prisoners. Power down your engines and weapons. Prepare to be boarded. If you resist, you will be destroyed." Kept her face calm, though her heart was beating fast. "This is Captain Park of the cargo vessel Steadfast Hope. We are a civilian ship carrying supplies. We have done nothing wrong." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are human, that is enough. Your kind has proven to be useful slaves. Strong bodies, clever minds, and most importantly, you always surrender. We have taken 17 human ships in this region. Not one has fought back. You will be no different." Felt anger rise in her chest, hot and sharp. She looked around the bridge at her crew, was pale with fear, was gripping the railing so hard her knuckles were white, but met her eyes and she saw something there that was not fear. It was determination. "Captain," he said quietly, stepping close so the aliens could not hear, "this ship has secrets. After the raids began, Command installed hidden weapons on cargo vessels. We have 4 heavy plasma cannons and 2 missile launchers. They do not know." Stared at him. Why was I not told? Orders only to be revealed in emergency situations. He almost smiled. "I think this counts." On the screen was growing impatient. "You have 5 minutes, human. Surrender or die. The choice is simple." Turned back to face the alien. Her fear was still there, but now it was buried under something stronger. These creatures had been hunting her people. They had been taking humans as slaves, and they expected her to simply give up. She thought about the 42 people on her ship. She thought about their families waiting for them back home. She thought about the 17 ships that had surrendered before and what had happened to their crews. No, not today, not her ship, not her people. She looked at and asked one simple question. How many weapons can we bring online in 60 seconds? His eyes lit up with fierce pride. "All of them, Captain." Nodded slowly. The fear was gone now, replaced by something that humans had carried inside them since the beginning of their existence. It was the refusal to give up, the determination to fight even when victory seemed impossible. They had studied humans, but they had not understood this part of them. They were about to learn. "Battle stations," Captain said quietly. "And someone get me Gunnery Sergeant O. We have work to do." The bridge of the Steadfast Hope became a place of quiet action. There was no panic, no shouting. Every crew member moved with purpose, knowing that the next few minutes would decide if they lived or died. Captain watched the countdown on her personal display. 4 minutes and 30 seconds until expected their surrender. 4 minutes and 30 seconds to prepare for a battle they were not supposed to fight. Gunnery Sergeant O arrived on the bridge. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of working with weapons. He had retired from the Earth Defense Fleet 10 years ago, but his eyes still held the sharp focus of a soldier. "Captain," he said, his voice low and steady, "told me I can have all weapons ready in 40 seconds. "Do it," ordered, "but keep them hidden until I give the command. I want the first shot to be a surprise." Nodded and moved to the weapon station. His fingers danced across the controls with the skill of long experience. At the communications station, Han was working on something else. His hands were shaking, but he forced them to be still. "Captain, I can send an emergency signal to the nearest military outpost. They are about 90 minutes away." "Too far," said grimly. "This will be over long before they arrive." "Send it anyway," decided. "If we do not survive, at least someone will know what happened here, and maybe they will come for the—" Nodded and began transmitting. He made sure to hide the signal inside normal background radiation, so the enemy would not detect it. In the engine room was performing miracles. She redirected power from lights, heating, and every non-essential system. The ship grew cold and dim, but the shields grew stronger and the weapons received full power. Medical Officer Shin came to the bridge as well. She was a calm woman with gentle hands and a voice that could soothe any fear. But today, her eyes were hard. "Medical Bay is ready," she reported. "I have prepared for casualties." Appreciated her honesty. They would take casualties today. There was no avoiding that, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. On the main screen, Archon appeared again. 3 minutes, human. I am growing impatient. I have seen your kind before. You always talk, always delay, and then you always surrender. Save us both time and power down now." Forced herself to smile. "Archon, I am simply gathering my crew to discuss your generous offer. We want to make sure everyone understands the situation." Discussion's 4 eyes narrowed. "What is there to discuss? You surrender or you die. Even your primitive mind should understand that." "We like to vote on important decisions," said calmly. "It is a human tradition." Behind her, covered a small laugh with a cough. The crew understood what the captain was doing. She was buying time and insulting the alien at the same time. Made an angry sound. Vote quickly then, 2 minutes. The screen went dark. Turned to face her bridge crew. He is right about one thing. We should vote. Does anyone here want to surrender? Silence. Does anyone believe they will treat us well if we give up? She continued. They called us slaves. They have taken 17 ships. Does anyone think those people are living comfortable lives? More silence, but now the crew members were looking at each other. Saw fear in their eyes, but she also saw anger. These were good people who had done nothing wrong. They had simply been flying through space, carrying supplies to help other humans, and now they were being treated like animals to be captured. I will not surrender my ship, said firmly. I will not surrender my crew. If we fight, some of us may die, but if we surrender, we lose everything. Our freedom, our dignity, our future. She paused. I am going to fight. Anyone who wants to join me, stay at your station. Anyone who wants to surrender, go to the escape pods now. I will not judge you. Nobody moved. Spoke from the weapons station. Captain, all weapons are ready, hidden and charged. His voice came through the speaker from the engine room. Shields at maximum. Engines ready for full power on your command. Swallowed hard but kept his voice steady. Emergency signal sent. If we fall, help will come for revenge. Stepped to stand beside the captain. Orders, Captain. Felt pride swell in her chest. These people had chosen to fight. They had chosen to stand against impossible odds rather than kneel to aliens who saw them as nothing more than cargo. Here is the plan, she said quickly. When they send their boarding party, their ships will be focused on us but not expecting attack. That is when we strike. Target the 2 ships directly in front of us. As soon as we fire, take us hard to port. We need to break their formation before they can react. Understood, both men said together. On the screen appeared for the final time. Time is up, human. What is your decision? Saw movement on the sensor display. One of the ships was launching a small craft. The boarding party was coming. Archon, she said slowly, I have consulted with my crew. We have voted, and we have decided to decline your offer. His wide mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. Decline. You cannot decline. You have no choice. There is always a choice, replied. You expected us to be afraid. You expected us to give up without fighting. You were wrong. The boarding craft was getting closer. The moment was almost here. You are fools, hissed. You are one small ship against 6 warships. You cannot win. Maybe not, agreed. But we can make you remember this day. We can make you regret ever hunting humans. And we can show the galaxy that we do not surrender. She raised her hand. The bridge was silent. Everyone held their breath. The boarding craft was almost at their hull. Light them up, Captain commanded. Press the firing button, and the steadfast hope roared to life. 4 heavy plasma cannons revealed themselves from hidden panels and fired at once. The twin beams of superheated energy crossed the darkness of space in less than a second. The first ship never saw it coming. The plasma tore through its shields and ripped into its hull. Explosions bloomed across its surface like flowers of fire. The second ship tried to raise shields, but it was too late. Another volley struck its engine section, and the entire back half of the ship disappeared in a ball of light. Threw the ship into a hard turn. The old cargo vessel groaned under the stress, but it held together. Was screaming encouragement to her engines from below, treating them like living things that needed motivation. On the screen, Archon's face was frozen in shock. 2 of his ships were gone, destroyed in seconds, by a cargo vessel, by humans. This is not possible, he whispered. But it was possible, it was happening, and the battle had only just begun. Space around the steadfast hope had become a storm of fire and metal. The burning remains of 2 warships drifted past the windows, lighting the darkness with orange and red. Debris bounced off the shields like rain against glass. Captain gripped the arms of her chair as flew the ship through the chaos. The old cargo vessel was never meant to move like this, but it was moving anyway. It twisted and turned, dodging enemy fire while continued to shoot back. Two more ships coming from below, reported, his voice high with stress. They are trying to surround us again. Can we go faster? Called into the intercom. I am giving you everything, shouted back from the engine room. If I push harder, we might blow up before the aliens can kill us. Then keep it steady. Take us toward that debris field. Use the wreckage for cover. Nodded and steered toward the floating remains of the destroyed ships. It was dangerous, flying through twisted metal and burning fuel, but it was better than being an easy target in open space. The four remaining ships were no longer calm and organized. They were angry and confused. Their formations were broken. They fired wildly, sometimes almost hitting each other in their rush to destroy the humans who had embarrassed them. Archon's voice screamed across all channels. Destroy them now. No human has ever done this to us. They must die. Smiled grimly as he lined up another shot. They are scared, he said. Good, scared enemies make mistakes. He fired the plasma cannons again. This time, the shot only damaged a ship instead of destroying it. The enemy was learning, keeping their shields up in their distance. But keeping distance meant they could not board, and they could not capture the crew they wanted as slaves. Captain said suddenly, one ship is breaking formation. It is coming straight at us. Fast. Looked at the sensor display. One warship had stopped shooting and was accelerating directly toward them. It was not trying to kill them with weapons. It was trying to ram them. Evasive action. I see it, replied through gritted teeth. He pulled the ship hard to the right, but the vessel adjusted its course. It was faster than them, more agile. There was no escape. Brace for impact, shouted. The collision was terrible. The ship struck the Steadfast Hope near the middle, tearing through the outer hull like paper. The entire vessel shook as if a giant hand had grabbed it and squeezed. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. People were thrown from their seats. When opened her eyes, the bridge was filled with smoke and sparks. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. She could hear distant sounds of metal groaning and air escaping. Report, she ordered, pulling herself back into her chair. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4, said. His forehead was bleeding, but he stayed at his station. Automatic seals are holding, but we lost 6 people in those sections. 6 people, 6 lives gone in seconds. Felt the weight of those deaths press against her heart, but she could not stop to mourn. Not yet. Weapons are still online, reported. He had a cut on his arm that he was ignoring. Shields are at 40%. Engines are damaged but working. His voice came through the speaker. It was weaker than before. I lost 2 of my people down here, Captain. The plasma conduit exploded. 8 dead, closed her eyes for just a moment. 8 of her crew would never go home. The ship that rammed us, said quietly. It is gone, destroyed by its own attack. They sacrificed themselves to hurt us. Then let us make sure their sacrifice meant nothing, replied. What is our status for continued combat? Before anyone could answer, Archon appeared on the screen again. His face was twisted with rage, but behind the anger could see something else. Fear. You are insane, he spat. You are all insane. No species fights like this. No species chooses death over surrender. You do not know humans very well, replied calmly. We have been fighting against impossible odds since we lived in caves. We fought animals bigger than us. We fought nature itself. We fought each other. And now we will fight you. Your ship is broken. Your shields are failing. You have already lost people. Why continue? Why die for nothing? Stood up slowly. Blood was running down her face from a wound she had not noticed. She did not wipe it away. You ambushed our ship, she said, her voice hard as steel. You threatened our crew. You called us slaves. You expected us to kneel before you like frightened animals. She stepped closer to the screen. What did you think would happen? Had no answer. I will tell you what is going to happen, continued. We are going to keep fighting. We are going to hurt your ships. We are going to make you pay for every human you have ever captured. And even if we die here today, the galaxy will know that humans do not surrender. They will know that attacking us comes with a price, and that price is higher than you ever imagined. She turned her back on him. Find me a target, keep us moving. Hold the engines together with your bare hands if you have to. She sat back in her chair. We are not done yet. Outside the ship, 3 warships circled like predators around wounded prey. But this prey had teeth, and it was not ready to die. Locked onto the nearest enemy. I have a shot, Captain. Their shields are weak on the port side. Take it. The plasma cannons fired again. The shot struck true, punching through the weakened shields and into the enemy hull. Secondary explosions rippled across the ship as its systems began to fail. Direct hit, announced with satisfaction. They are wounded, not dead but wounded. On his flagship, Archon watched in disbelief. He had come here expecting easy prey. He had come here expecting another shipload of slaves to sell. Instead, he had lost 3 ships and was watching a 4th burn. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never felt when facing humans. He felt doubt. The steadfast hope drifted through the battlefield like a wounded animal that refused to fall. Smoke poured from the holes in its hull. Fires burned in sections that had lost their emergency systems. The once-proud cargo vessel was barely holding together. But it was still fighting. Captain watched the 3 remaining ships on her damaged sensor display. They had pulled back, forming a triangle around the human vessel. They were no longer attacking. They were waiting. What are they doing? Asked. His face was covered in sweat and dust. I do not know, admitted, but I do not like it. From the communication station made a sound of alarm. Captain, I am detecting a massive energy buildup from Archon's flagship. It is unlike anything in our database. On the main screen, the largest ship began to glow. Purple light collected at its front, swirling like a storm. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was painful to look at. Called into the intercom, what are we looking at? His voice came back, tired and worried. I am checking our records. This matches something called a gravity pulse weapon. It is theoretical. We did not think anyone had actually built one. What does it do? It creates a focused gravity field. The field crushes everything inside it, ships, people, everything. It squeezes them into nothing. Paused. Captain, if they fire that at us, our shields will not matter. Nothing will matter. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Was the first to speak. How do we stop it? According to the theory, the weapon has one weakness, explained. The gravity field affects everything in range, including the ship that fires it. If we get close enough, the pulse would damage their ship too. They would not risk firing at close range. Understood immediately. Then we need to get close. Captain, that is insane, said. We can barely fly in a straight line. How are we supposed to charge their flagship? The same way we have done everything else today, replied, by refusing to give up. She looked around the bridge at her exhausted, wounded crew. I will not lie to you. This might be the end, but if we stay here, they will crush us like insects. At least if we move forward, we have a chance. The crew exchanged glances. They were tired. They were scared, but none of them argued. Full power to engines, ordered. All remaining shields to the front. We are going to ram them before they can fire. Understood, said quietly. He set the course and pushed the engines to their limit. The steadfast hope lurched forward, heading straight for Archon's flagship. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The hull groaned in protest. Somewhere in the ship, something exploded. The other 2 ships opened fire, trying to stop the humans. Plasma bolts and energy beams struck the steadfast hope from both sides. Each hit made the ship shake. Each hit killed the shields a little more. But the ship kept moving. In the engine room was performing impossible repairs while the ship fell apart around her. Her remaining crew worked beside her, holding broken pipes and forcing failing systems to work for just a few more seconds. "Come on," she whispered to the engines. "Just a little longer, you can do this. We can do this." On the bridge returned fire at the escort ships, but his shots were getting weaker. The weapons were overheating. Soon they would have nothing left. "How long until we reach them?" asked. 30 seconds, if we survive that long." The gravity weapon on his flagship was almost fully charged. The purple light was blinding now. Inside the vessel, watched the approaching human ship with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "They are coming straight at us," one of his officers said. "They must know they cannot survive." "Fire the weapon," commanded. "Archon, at this range, we will also take damage. We should wait until they are." "Fire it now." The gravity pulse launched. It was a wave of invisible force, rippling through space like a stone dropped in water. Everything it touched was pulled toward its center, twisted and crushed by impossible pressure. But the steadfast hope was too close. The pulse struck the human ship, and the outer hull began to buckle. Metal screamed. Windows shattered. Several crew members were thrown against walls and did not get up again. But the pulse also struck the edge of its own flagship. The ship shook violently. Systems failed. Lights went dark. The weapon that was supposed to save them had wounded them instead. "No," screamed. "This is impossible." The two escort ships were also caught in the edge of the pulse. One lost its engines completely and began to drift. The other started spinning out of control, its navigation systems destroyed. When the pulse faded, the battlefield had changed completely. The steadfast hope was barely functional, more wreckage than ship, but its flagship was crippled too, and his two remaining escorts were no longer combat-ready. On the human bridge pulled herself off the floor. Her vision was blurry, her ears were ringing, but she was alive. "Report," she managed to say. "Shields are gone," answered. He was holding his arm at a strange angle. "Weapons are offline. Engines are at 10%. Life support is failing on multiple decks." "And the enemy?" Checked his damaged sensors. A smile crossed his bloody face. "Their flagship is dead in space. One escort has no engines. The other cannot control its movement. We hurt them, Captain. We really hurt them." Laughed, though it sent pain through her entire body. They had done it. Against 6 warships they had fought back. They had survived. They had won. Or had they? "Captain," said, his smile fading, "'s flagship still has weapons. They are bringing them online, and we have nothing left to fight with." The victory suddenly felt hollow. They had given everything, and it was not enough. "How long until human reinforcements arrive?" asked. 60 minutes, maybe more." 60 minutes. They would not last 60 seconds. Looked at her crew. They had fought so hard. They had been so brave. And now, after everything, they were going to die anyway. Unless she could think of one more miracle. She closed her eyes and tried to remember everything she knew about ramming attacks, about ship damage, about sacrifice. And slowly, a final plan began to form in her mind. It was not a good plan. It would probably not work, but it was the only option left. She said quietly, "Can we still move forward?" "Yes, barely." "Then set a collision course with flagship. We are going to finish this." The steadfast hope began its final approach. The engines made terrible sounds like the cries of a dying animal. Sparks flew from broken consoles. The air tasted of smoke and blood. But the ship moved forward inch by inch toward Archon's crippled flagship. Captain stood in the center of her ruined bridge. Her uniform was torn and stained with blood. Her face was covered in cuts and burns, but her eyes were clear and focused, filled with the same determination that had carried her through this entire battle. All hands, this is the captain, she announced over the shipwide intercom. I will not lie to you. Our situation is bad. We have no weapons. Our shields are gone. Life support is failing, but we are not finished. We are going to ram the enemy flagship. It is the only way to make sure they cannot hurt anyone else. She paused, letting her words reach every corner of the dying ship. Anyone who wishes to use the escape pods may do so now. I will not order anyone to die with me, but I want you to know something. Whatever happens in the next few minutes, we have already won. We proved that humans will fight. We proved that attacking us has consequences. And we proved that courage is more powerful than fear. No one moved toward the escape pods. In the engine room, kept working on the engines despite the tears running down her face. You heard her, she told her remaining crew. We have a job to finish. On the bridge, the skeleton crew that remained watched the approaching enemy ship on their flickering screens. Archon's flagship was trying to bring its weapons online, but the damage from the gravity pulse had slowed everything down. It was a race against time. 30 seconds to impact, reported. His broken arm hung useless at his side, but he flew the ship with his other hand. On the flagship, Archon screamed orders at his crew. Stop them, shoot them, do something. Weapons are not responding, an officer replied. The gravity pulse damaged our targeting systems. Then move, get us out of their path. Engines are offline, we cannot move. Stared at the approaching human ship with growing horror. The roles had reversed. The hunter had become the prey, and the prey was coming to kill him. This cannot be happening, he whispered. They are just humans, they are weak, they are supposed to surrender. But the steadfast hope did not surrender. It kept coming, a broken vessel held together by nothing but the will of its crew. 20 seconds to impact. One of the damaged escort ships suddenly began to move. It had managed to restore partial engine power, and now it was positioning itself between the human ship and its flagship. What are they doing? Asked. Understood immediately. They are going to block us. They are sacrificing themselves to save their commander. The escort ship fired its remaining engines at full power, placing itself directly in the steadfast hope's path. There was no time to change course, no way to avoid the collision. Brace for impact, shouted. The two ships met in a violent explosion of metal and fire. The escort was torn apart instantly. The steadfast hope was thrown backward by the force, spinning through space like a leaf in a storm. When the shaking stopped, found herself on the floor again. Everything hurt. She could barely move, but she forced herself to look at the main screen. His flagship was still there. Damaged, yes, barely functional, but still there. They had failed. Or had they? Captain's weak voice came from somewhere in the darkness. Look. On the screen's flagship was moving, not toward them, away from them. They were retreating. They are running, said in disbelief. We broke them. They are actually running away. Watched as the flagship slowly turned and began to limp toward open space. The one remaining escort ship, still spinning from the gravity pulse damage, managed to follow. They were leaving. They were abandoning the battlefield. For the first time in recorded history, a Archon had retreated from humans. Collapsed into her broken chair and let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for hours. Is it over? Sensors show them leaving the area, confirmed. They are gone, Captain, we won. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then someone laughed. Then someone cheered. Soon, the entire surviving crew was celebrating, hugging each other, crying with relief and joy. They had won. 47 minutes later, 4 ships from the Earth Defense Fleet arrived. They found the steadfast hope floating among the wreckage of 4 destroyed warships. The cargo vessel was barely recognizable as a ship. It was more like a floating collection of broken parts held together by hope and determination. This is Commander of the Earth Defense Fleet, a voice announced over the radio. Steadfast Hope, do you require assistance? activated the communication system with shaking hands. "Commander, this is Captain Park. We would appreciate a ride home." The story of the steadfast hope spread across human space within days. The news reached Earth, Mars, and every colony in between. People watched recordings of the battle in stunned silence. A cargo ship with hidden weapons, a crew that chose to fight instead of surrender, a captain who refused to give up even when everything was lost. Captain and her surviving crew became heroes. They received medals and honors from every human government. Schools were named after them. Songs were written about them. But when reporters asked how it felt to be a hero, she simply shook her head. "We are not heroes," she said. "We are just humans. We did what any human crew would do when someone threatened our people. We refused to give up." The story spread beyond human space too. Other alien species heard about the battle. They heard about the cargo ship that destroyed 4 warships. They heard about the Archon who ran away. And they began to look at humans differently. The High Council was forced to acknowledge that humans were not the easy prey they had believed. Other predatory species quietly canceled their plans to raid human vessels. The galaxy was learning a new truth. Humans might be small, they might be young compared to the ancient species, but they were not weak. On a distant station, Archon sat alone in his quarters, watching a recording of the battle. His career was ruined. His reputation was destroyed, but that was not what haunted him. He kept watching the moment when Captain had spoken to him. The blood on her face, the fire in her eyes, the absolute refusal to accept defeat. "What did you think would happen?" she had asked. Finally understood the answer. They had measured humans by their technology, by their ship sizes, by their military numbers. They had looked at the facts and decided that humans were inferior. But they had missed something. Something that could not be measured. Something that turned a cargo ship into a warship and a civilian crew into warriors. They had missed the human spirit. "We should never have made them our enemy," whispered to the empty room. "We should have made them our allies." But it was too late for that now. The galaxy had changed. Humans had proven themselves, and nothing would ever be the same. Far across space, on the rebuilt Steadfast Hope II, Captain looked out at the stars. She thought about the friends she had lost, the battles she had fought, the impossible odds she had overcome. Then she smiled, set her course for the next colony, and flew back into the darkness. Because that was what humans did. They kept going, they never stopped, they never surrendered. And the galaxy would remember that forever.